I'm 42. Married for 11 years. 2 kids. Suburban house with beige walls and a lawn I pretended to care about. Until a year ago, I would have said my life was fine. Not exciting, not tragic. Just fine in that quiet, middle-aged way where the days blur together, and you assume that means stability. My wife, Laura, and I met in our late 20s. She was sharp, funny, a little guarded. I like that. We built a life that looked solid from the outside. School drop-offs. Weekend Costco runs. Arguments about money that never quite crossed into screaming. The kind of marriage where you think, yeah, this is what it's supposed to look like. Last spring, we decided to renovate our upstairs bathroom. It was outdated, cracked tiles, leaky pipes. Nothing dramatic. We hired a local contractor recommended by a neighbor. His name was Mark. Early 40s, confident, friendly in that casual, joking way. The kind of guy who makes eye contact and calls you, man, even if he just met you. The job was supposed to take 6 weeks. It took 5 months. At the time, I blamed supply chain issues. Backordered tiles. Unexpected plumbing problems. Laura was home more than me since I worked longer hours. She handled most of the communication with Mark. I was grateful. I trusted her. That's the part that hurts the most now. How normal everything felt. How completely unaware I was that my marriage was already cracking behind freshly installed drywall. Looking back, the red flags were embarrassingly obvious. At the time, they felt like nothing. Or worse, like things I was ashamed to question. Laura started caring a lot about the renovation. Not just the design, but the timing. She'd get irritated if I asked when it would be done. These things take time. She'd snap. She was defensive in a way she hadn't been before. She also started dressing differently on weekdays. Nothing extreme, but intentional. Makeup on days she used to skip it. Clothes that felt slightly out of place for someone just working from home. I noticed, but I told myself I was being paranoid. Or insecure. Or aging. Mark was around constantly. Even when work seemed stalled. I'd come home and hear laughter upstairs. Laura's laugh, lighter than the one she used with me lately. When I walked in, conversations would stop just a beat too late. Once I joked, "You're going to miss him when the bathroom's done." Laura didn't laugh. She looked at me like I'd insulted her. Another time, I saw a text notification pop up on her phone while she was in the shower. Just a name. Mark C. Nothing else. I didn't open it. I told myself I wasn't that guy. The suspicious husband checking phones. I wanted to believe we were solid. I needed to believe that. So I ignored the tight feeling in my chest. I ignored how she'd suddenly locked the bathroom door. I ignored how the renovation dragged on with no clear explanation. Denial is quieter than people think. It sounds like logic. Like trust. Like love. The first real crack came on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day. I remember because that detail haunts me, how ordinary it was. I came home early. A meeting got cancelled, and I thought I'd surprise Laura. I walked in and heard water running upstairs. The new bathroom. The one that was almost done for the 3rd month in a row. I called her name. No answer. Then I heard Mark's voice. Not work-related. Casual. Intimate. Too relaxed. I froze halfway up the stairs. My heart was pounding like I'd been caught doing something wrong, even though I hadn't done anything. That should have been my first clue. I went up anyway. Laura came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. Mark was inside, shirt off, adjusting something under the sink. She jumped when she saw me. "Oh, you're home early," she said too quickly. I made a joke. Something stupid. Mark laughed. Laura didn't. The air felt thick. Charged. Like I'd walked into the wrong room at the wrong time. That night I barely slept. My mind replayed the scene over and over, trying to make it innocent. trying to make it normal. Contractors work shirtless sometimes. Towels happen. Coincidences exist. But something had shifted. A quiet certainty settled in my gut. Not proof. Just a sense of wrongness. From that point on, I started noticing everything. And once you start seeing, you can't stop. I hated who I became in those weeks. Suspicious. Hyper-aware. Always listening. Laura guarded her phone like it was a life support device. Screen face down. Always on silent. She'd step outside to take calls, even though she used to pace the kitchen while talking to her sister. I started inventing excuses to come home early. To forget things so I could turn around. Every time, my stomach dropped when I pulled into the driveway and saw Mark's truck. Once, I sat in my car for 10 minutes just watching the house. Lights on upstairs. Laughter through an open window. I didn't recognize myself. I felt pathetic. Weak. Like I was auditioning for the role of the jealous husband in a bad movie. I almost confronted her a dozen times. Each time, I chickened out. I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to destroy my marriage over a feeling. But the feeling kept growing. One night, after too much wine, Laura slipped up. She mentioned something about Mark's childhood. A detail I knew she hadn't learned from me. I asked how she knew that. She paused. Just for a second. Then said, "He mentioned it. We talk. We talk." That phrase echoed in my head for days. I started imagining them together. Laughing. Touching. Sharing things she no longer shared with me. The worst part wasn't the jealousy. It was the sense that I was already losing her, and she hadn't even bothered to tell me. I didn't plan to find out the way I did. I wasn't snooping. That's what I tell myself, anyway. Laura asked me to grab her laptop from the living room so she could finish some work in bed. When I opened it, her messages app was already open. A thread right there. No password. No warning. Mark. The last message read, "Today was risky but worth it. I can still smell you." My hands started shaking. I felt cold, then hot, then numb. I scrolled. I shouldn't have, but I did. There were weeks of messages. Flirting. Jokes. Explicit descriptions of what they did in my house. In my bathroom. While my kids were at school and I was at work. One message from Laura said, "He suspects nothing. We're safe." I don't remember closing the laptop. I don't remember walking upstairs. I just remember standing in the doorway, looking at my wife, and realizing I didn't know who she was. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Hey." I said, "How long?" She knew immediately. Her face collapsed. She started crying before I even finished the sentence. That was the moment my life split in two, before I knew, and after I couldn't unknow. I asked her again. "How long?" She sat up, clutching the blanket like it could protect her. Her voice was small. "A few months. A few months." Like she was talking about a hobby she picked up and dropped. I asked if it was physical. She nodded. I asked where? She didn't answer at first. Then whispered, "Here." I laughed. I couldn't help it. A sharp, ugly sound that didn't feel like it came from me. "In the bathroom?" She cried harder. She said it started as emotional. That they talked. That she felt seen. That the renovation stress brought them together. All the clichés. Every word felt like a script she'd rehearsed. I asked if she loved him. She said, "I don't know." That hurt more than a yes. I asked if it was over. She hesitated. That pause told me everything. I felt like I was watching my life from outside my body. Like this was happening to someone else. Like if I stayed calm enough, it would reverse. It didn't. That night, I slept on the couch. I listened to her cry in the bedroom we'd shared for over a decade. I didn't feel victorious or relieved. I felt hollow. The next few days were a blur of logistics and pain. Who would tell the kids? When? Should we separate immediately? Could we even exist in the same house? Laura begged me not to tell anyone. She said it would destroy everything. As if it hadn't already. Mark disappeared. The renovation stopped mid-task. Half-finished walls. Exposed pipes. A physical reminder of the mess she'd made. I emailed him once. Just one sentence. Stay away from my family. He didn't reply. I oscillated between rage and grief. One moment I wanted to smash things. The next, I wanted to rewind time to before the bathroom, before the trust eroded. Friends noticed something was wrong. I lied. Said it was work stress. I wasn't ready to say the words out loud. Making it real felt unbearable. Laura tried to act normal around the kids. I watched her with a new lens. Every smile felt fake, every touch suspicious. Sleep became impossible. When I closed my eyes, I saw them together. Heard their laughter. Smelled the bathroom cleaner mixed with betrayal. I didn't know how to exist in my own home anymore. There wasn't just one confrontation. There were dozens. Late-night arguments. Early morning interrogations. Questions I knew would only hurt, but asked anyway. Did you ever think about me? Yes. Then why? I was lonely. You weren't alone. You had me. Silence. She said she felt invisible. That I'd checked out emotionally. Maybe I had. I worked a lot. I was tired. But I never cheated. She cried. A lot. Apologized. Promised it was over. Then admitted she missed him. Then apologized for that. I felt like I was negotiating with someone who'd already left. She wanted counseling. I didn't know if I wanted to fix things or burn them down. Some days I hated her. Other days I missed her, the version of her I thought I knew. I hated myself for missing her. Trust, once broken, doesn't shatter cleanly. It crumbles. Slowly. Every conversation, every excuse, I swear, grinds it down further. I started realizing that even if she never spoke to him again, I would never stop seeing him in the corners of our life. The kids sensed it before we told them. They always do. Our son became quieter. Our daughter asked if we were mad at each other. Laura said no. I said nothing. Eventually, we told them we were having problems. That Mom and Dad needed time to figure things out. I watched their faces change, confusion, fear, hope that it was temporary. I felt like I'd failed them. School mornings became tense. Dinners silent. The house felt colder, even when we were all in the same room. I started sleeping in the guest room. Laura said it felt like punishment. I said I needed space. The truth was I couldn't share a bed with someone who'd shared herself so easily with someone else. Friends began to suspect. Rumors spread when the renovation crew never came back. Someone asked me if we'd fired them. I said yes. That lie tasted bitter. I started therapy. I didn't tell Laura at first. I needed somewhere to be honest without protecting her feelings. The therapist asked what hurt the most. I said, that she let someone else into our life, and I didn't even matter enough to notice. People think infidelity gives you clarity. It doesn't. It gives you chaos. Some mornings, I woke up determined to leave. I'd imagine a small apartment. Quiet. Control. Dignity. Other mornings, I'd see Laura making coffee, looking exhausted and ashamed, and I'd remember the years before this. The good ones. The family we built. She tried. I'll give her that. Cut off contact. Gave me passwords. Answered questions. Cried until her eyes were swollen. But remorse doesn't erase images. I kept thinking about the messages. He suspects nothing. How stupid I must have seemed. How easily replaceable. I worried about being alone at my age. About the kids shuttling between houses. About starting over with all this damage. Staying felt like swallowing glass. Leaving felt like amputating a limb. There was no choice that didn't hurt. The bathroom was finally finished by a different contractor. New tiles. Clean lines. No history, they said. They were wrong. I couldn't use it at first. I brushed my teeth downstairs. Showered in the guest bath. Every tile felt contaminated. Laura noticed. Apologized again. Offered to redo it. Tear it out. Like that would help. Sometimes I'd stand in the doorway and just stare. This stupid room had become the symbol of everything we lost. I wondered how many times I'd walked past while they were inside. How many lies were told behind locked doors. It's strange what sticks with you. Not the sex itself, but the familiarity. How comfortable they must have been. How casual the betrayal. I realized then that even if we stayed married, parts of our life were permanently off limits. Scarred. That realization broke something final inside me. I eventually told my brother. Then a close friend. Saying it out loud made it real, but it also made me feel less insane. They were angry on my behalf. Protective. One asked why I hadn't kicked her out already. I didn't have a good answer. Laura's parents found out. So did mine. The shame spread outward like a stain. Laura withdrew. I felt guilty for that, even though I knew I shouldn't. She asked me if we could start over. New chapter. Fresh start. I asked her how she planned to erase 5 months of lies. She didn't answer. We started talking about separation more seriously. Not in anger, but in resignation. It felt like standing over a body, discussing funeral arrangements that we're separated now. Not divorced. Yet. I live in a small rental nearby so I can still see the kids easily. Laura stayed in the house. The bathroom. The life we built. Some days I feel relief. Other days I feel like I'm floating without an anchor. She still texts me. Sometimes about the kids. Sometimes about us. Sometimes just, "I'm sorry." I don't know what to do with that. Trust feels like a foreign concept now. Something other people have. I'm functioning. Working. Parenting. But inside, there's a constant low-level ache. A disbelief that this is how things turned out. The worst part isn't the anger anymore. It's the doubt. I question my judgment. My worth. My memories. Were we ever as happy as I thought? Or was I just convenient? I catch myself scanning rooms for exits. For threats. Even in new relationships, the seed of suspicion is planted early. Infidelity doesn't just break a marriage. It rewires you. Laura says she'll wait. That she hopes I'll come back. I don't know if love can survive being humiliated like that. I don't know if forgiveness is enough without trust. I hate that one decision, one renovation, altered the trajectory of so many lives. That if you're reading this, and something feels off in your relationship, don't ignore it just to preserve peace. Peace built on denial is fragile. I don't know how this story ends. Maybe divorce. Maybe reconciliation. Maybe something in between. What I do know is that I will never be the man I was before that bathroom renovation. And maybe that's the real loss. Thanks for letting me get this off my chest.